Greetings, and thank you for stopping by. May I suggest you dim the lights and lock the door. This is Absolute Horror. Good evening, and welcome to the show. I'm Chris Dead, your otherworldly host. Tonight, we add a new segment, Digital Darkside, to our list of usual suspects, with special guest Mars Homeworld from Dead House Music making an appearance as well. Let's start the evening with a visit from Jesse Sweet.
Thank you, Mr. Dead. For tonight's segment, we look at a show created by a well-known filmmaker and features the star of his biggest film franchise. So, how do they do on the small screen? That's coming up next on The Dark Side of Television. Wes Craven, the creator of A Nightmare on Elm Street, presents us with a new nightmare, Nightmare Cafe. This 1992 horror drama features Robert Englund, the star of the aforementioned film, as Blackie, the sole proprietor of a cafe from another dimension. The pilot episode introduces our main stars, Jack Coleman as Frank Nolan and Lindsay Frost as Faye Peronovic, both recently dead. One a victim of a crime, the other a suicide. They're each granted a second chance at life and the opportunity to set things right. The only drawback? They have to work for the cafe. We're never quite clear on how it came to be or what greater power it serves. The cafe has a mind of its own and chooses when and where it will materialize, and who will be invited. There's plenty of comedy throughout the 6 episodes, and it's a definite throwback to the 1980s. Although there are a few holes in the plot, this show was entertaining enough to keep me watching.
Now that I've got your attention, here's the deal. See those 2 people? That's Frank, and that's Faye. Strangers when they met. Turns out they've got a lot in common. Both died in the same night. Both ended up in the same body of water. And both took refuge in the same all-night cafe. Me, I run the place. Name's Blackie. Been here from the beginning. Now, I know I said Frank and Faye were dead, but the cafe needed a new cook and waitress, so it gave them a second chance at life. They do their job, they get to stick around and help unsuspecting customers turn their lives around. Of course, anything can happen to those who wander in. Their worst nightmares or their forbidden dreams. Yeah, it all happens here, in this little place we call the Nightmare Cafe.
A typical episode of Nightmare Cafe starts with the guest entering the cafe after they die. They're offered a second chance, not necessarily at life, but to undo some grave wrongdoing. It usually ends on a happy note for our heroes and not our antagonists. The dated effects and somewhat slapstick humor won't be providing you with any nightmares of your own. All in all, this was a great watch for any fan of the genre, and I enjoyed every minute of Nightmare Cafe. I bet you will too. That's all for my show, The Dark Side of Television. I'm Jesse Sweet, and I'll see you next time right here at Absolute Horror.
Thank you, Miss Sweet, for that nightmare from the past. Lucky the Lunatic joining us now with the dark side of music. Good evening, Lucky.
Sir Dead, an honor to be here as usual, and I must say, the band I'm reviewing for you this month, I think, From Hell They Came, pun freaking intended. A dreary hello and good evening to all of you, my friends and internet idiots. I'd like to ask you all a very personal question. Have you ever looked at your significant other and thought to yourself, die, 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 my darling? If you have, then you're already a fan of the band I'm reviewing this month, so you can just fast forward through my bit and straight to Amy M. Good for you. But if you haven't ever thought that or something like it, then you're an imbecile, and I'm about to open your eyes. Goths and Gothettes, introducing the Misfits. When I thought about what album was going to be the most entertaining to start off the doomed new year of 2012, I realized that one album wasn't nearly enough. I mean, we're talking about a year filled with calamity before it's even began. Not only does the Mayan calendar predict that we're all going to hell before next Christmas, but this is a voting year on top of it. And that's when that occurred to me. Not just one album, but one band with many albums. And who better to usher in a new year filled with dismay, depression and death than the kings of the macabre themselves, the Misfits. With their pounding rhythms, driving guitar, bass and drums and lyrics about everything horror, this band really makes an impression on the darker side of your soul. The Misfits have had a long and tumultuous career filled with band member changes, drugs, alcohol, death and Satan. Through it all though, they have remained a musical force to be reckoned with, by adding their own brand of wit and style to some of the darkest subjects known to man. Everything from murder to alien invasion has been on their list. And the unfortunate truth is, 3 minutes is just not enough time to tell you everything you need to know about them. But, as your loyal guide to what's dark in the world of music, it's my duty to try. Firstly though, have a listen to one of my all-time favourite tracks, Hate the Living, Love the Dead. So, here's how it went. They began as four, formed in 1977 by vocalist Glenn Danzig and bassist Jerry Only, with guitarist Frank Licata and drummer Mr. Jim Catania, who were later replaced by Bobby Steele and Joey Image for both studio recordings and shows. Image and Steele later left the band to be replaced by Jerry Only's younger brother Doyle Von Frankenstein on guitar and Arthur Googie on Skins. In 1982, Googie took his leave due to financial trouble, only to be replaced by semi-permanent Skins man Robo. In late 1983, Glenn Danzig made the decision to break up the original band, but there was more to come. In 1996, after several major acts such as Guns N' Roses and Metallica recorded covers of Misfits originals, Jerry Only and his brother Doyle reformed the Misfits, adding vocalist Michael Graves and Dr. Chud on the drums. After two more record-breaking underground albums, the final incarnation of the Misfits came with Des Cadena, Black Flag fame, on guitar, Jerry Only on bass and vocals, and Ramones drummer Marky Ramone tapping the Skins. All in all, the Misfits have created the quintessential sound for ne'er-do-wells and goths alike. Their albums are available everywhere, so go get one, slap a Crimson Ghost patch on your jacket, and remember, if it doesn't make blood shoot out of your eyeballs, it's not the dark side of music.
Excellent story, Lucky. From hell they came, indeed. Amy M. with her debut now, Digital Darkside.
Hello, and welcome to Digital Darkside. In this segment of the show, we will explore the digital realm of the horror genre, dark digital art, video games, and of course, the darkest corners of the World Wide Web. I'm Amy M., and I will be your guide. I was familiar with LovecraftZine.com before my review and have been a fan since my first visit. The site features everything Lovecraft, and I do mean everything. Let's start with the stories. Editor Mike Davis's goal was to make an online magazine where people could read quality Lovecraftian stories for free, and he has. The stories are nothing short of high quality. The e-zine features prominent authors, and Mr. Davis has a high standard as to what he will print. There are also audio versions of the short stories. This is my favorite part of the site. Talented voice actors and readers like Morgan Scorpion and Wayne June can be found reading the Lovecraft and Lovecraft-influenced stories, which are all downloadable. I have more than a handful in my MP3 player. Another favorite, the artwork for each story, which aren't just random Lovecraft-influenced pictures, but more like a book cover for each specific tale. Throughout the rest of the site, and recently added to each issue, original Lovecraftian artwork. Charles Schneider and Dan Hunt are just two of the many artists that have used the e-zine to premiere their work. The e-zine also delivers Lovecraftian news, world news like this article, Mountains of Madness for Real, also entertainment news like the upcoming Lovecraftian-themed feature film, John Dies at the End. This is of particular interest to us here at Absolute Horror, and we are glad to have noticed the trailer at LovecraftZine.com. There are also random drawings and contests for Lovecraft goodies, like original Lovecraftian sculptures, and I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it myself, Lovecraftian candy. If it's influenced by H.P. Lovecraft and it's original, it's on this site. Good job to Mike Davis, the editor, and to all the talent that will have you adding LovecraftZine.com to your favorites. Thanks for watching. Join me next time for another episode of Digital Darkside. Now back to Absolute Horror.
Thank you, Amy. A welcomed addition to the madness. Now, a special treat for you, our viewer. Horror film composer Mars Homeworld from Dead House Music with his segment, Dark Pieces of Literature.
Greetings, boils and ghouls. Mars from Dead House Music here. Tonight I'm taking a vacation from all things musically macabre to visit Absolute Horror. Join me as I share with you the dark pieces of literature. How a culture reveres its dead is a defining anthropological study, and is often the first glimpse we have into cultures from the past. In Paul Koudounaris' book, The Empire of Death, we are taken on a journey through 70 ossuaries on 4 continents and face to face with the ivory smiles of countless human remains. The catacombs and their contents provide a sobering vision, a reminder that the grave awaits. Far from being morbid, this book actually celebrates life and the journey into eternity that we must all face eventually. The photography is nothing short of stunning. I cannot emphasize this enough. Each picture is more amazing than the last. I must mention that in this age of disposable products and planned obsolescence, this is a book that harkens back to a time when craftsmanship and quality materials were something that were a given when making a purchase. The paper, the binding, the layout, the engraved cover lettering is all exceptional. I cannot truly do justice to just how well crafted this book is. Weighing in at several pounds, it is a beast. This is a book built to last long after you're dead and buried. How's that for appropriate? My only complaint, and I have found this to be true of several books I've been reviewing as of late, is that the print feels extremely small. Worse, the layout of each page, while very artistically conceived, uses up a great deal of space on a large framed border. I'd have much preferred the typeface to be 2 sizes larger instead of the stylish layout. There is an amazing amount of detailed research and notes within this text that pertains to the photographs, and I'd like to be able to actually read it without reaching for glasses I don't own yet. It would be nice to see a subsequent printing remedy this. The Empire of Death is an astounding achievement, both as a literary and photographic work. While this certainly isn't for every household, I do believe this is a must-have for those of us to whom the subject of death is indeed good coffee table conversation. Until next time, this has been Mars for Absolute Horror.
A big thank you to our special guest Mars, and I'd wager we haven't seen the last of him. That's all for this month at Absolute Horror. Until the next episode, you can always find us on the web at absolutehorror.com. Thank you and good night.